Have you ever felt the ache of waiting? Not the waiting in lines or at red lights, but the kind of quiet waiting that stretches between two people, when someone you care about suddenly goes quiet. You stare at your phone, hoping to see a message that never comes. You replay your last conversation in your mind, wondering if you said something wrong. You check his social media, looking for signs, clues, anything that might explain why he's no longer showing up for you the way he used to. That silence? It hurts. It's not loud, but it echoes. It whispers things to your heart that you're not sure how to answer. And then comes the urge, the impulse to send that message, to reach out. Hey, is everything okay? Did I do something wrong? But before your fingers press send, let's breathe together. Because what if the most powerful response isn't in chasing answers? What if the most magnetic thing you could do in that moment is to not respond at all? This isn't about playing games. It's about honoring your energy. It's about learning a deeper kind of wisdom, one that doesn't react. One that doesn't beg to be seen. One that simply is. You see, when someone withdraws without explanation, the pain isn't just about them. It's about the story we start telling ourselves. I'm not enough. I did something wrong. I must fix this. But what if you didn't have to fix it? What if the answer wasn't in doing more, but in doing less? There's a kind of strength in stillness. A kind of quiet power that emerges when you learn to let someone feel your absence instead of constantly offering your presence. Men, just like anyone else, respond not to pressure but to space. They don't feel the loss of someone who's always available. But they do begin to notice when your energy begins to shift, when you stop filling the silence with your effort, and start letting the silence speak for itself. This is the moment where your journey begins. Not a journey of trying harder, but a journey of coming home to yourself. If he chooses distance, you don't have to chase him into the dark. Instead, you can light a candle within your own heart and stay warm there. Let him feel what it's like when your presence is no longer easy to reach. Not out of spite, not out of pride, but out of deep, quiet self-respect. Because you, dear soul, are not here to beg for clarity. You are here to remember your worth even in the silence. The sacred pause where your power lives. Let's take a deep breath together. Close your eyes. If it feels safe, place your hand gently over your heart. Feel the steady rhythm there. That is your anchor. When someone begins to pull away emotionally, physically, silently, it's natural to want to reach out, to seek clarity, to ask why, to fix things, because silence feels like rejection, and rejection feels like danger to the heart. But here's a truth that very few people will say gently. Most of the damage doesn't happen because they left. It happens because you abandoned yourself while trying to hold on to them. You see, it's not the quiet that hurts the most. It's how loud your thoughts become in the quiet. And in that sacred pause where he stops calling, where the attention fades, where uncertainty grows, you are given the most powerful choice. Will you spiral into proving, pleading, performing? Or will you return to your own center, your own breath, your own calm? Because this moment, it's a test. Not of your worth, but of your ability to remember it. Detachment isn't cold. It isn't punishment. It isn't showing him. It's simply the space you create when you stop chasing and start listening to yourself. Instead of reacting, you breathe. Instead of proving, you soften. Instead of begging, you begin again, with you. Men people notice absence far more deeply than presence that's always available. But you must let your absence come from peace. Not from pain. Let it come from self-trust. Not silent suffering. From alignment. Not anxiety. When you pull your energy back, It doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you stop pouring it into a place that isn't ready to hold it. And when he begins to feel that space, don't rush to fill it. Don't rush to clarify, to explain, to save the connection. Let the silence do what your words can't. Because in that stillness, something shifts not just in him, but in you. You begin to see more clearly. You begin to feel how much of your energy has been spent hoping, waiting, wondering, and you begin to remember. You are the one you've been waiting for. You are not here to fight for a seat at someone's table. You are the whole table. So let him feel your absence, not to hurt him, but to heal you. Let that sacred pause become your return. Back to your breath, back to your truth, back to your peace. And if he never reaches back for you, then you've lost nothing that was truly meant for you. But if he does, he will find a woman who has remembered who she is. One who is no longer waiting because she is already whole. Let the silence teach him what words never could. There is something strangely powerful about silence. It's not just the absence of noise, it's the presence of mystery. When you stop reaching out, when you stop explaining yourself, when you stop handing your heart to someone who doesn't ask for it with care, a quiet shift begins. And that shift isn't just felt by you, it echoes into him too. At first, he might not notice. He may think you're just busy, or going through something. He may assume you'll reach out again like you always do. Because for so long, your presence was a given. But days pass, maybe weeks, and slowly, the certainty he once had begins to dissolve. Is she mad? Is she with someone else? Why isn't she reacting like she used to? And suddenly, the dynamic begins to shift. Not because you played games, but because you stopped offering yourself so freely to someone who didn't honor your worth. The woman who once sent long messages explaining her feelings now sends none at all. Not out of resentment, but out of peace. She has nothing to prove, nothing to chase, nothing to fix. She's busy becoming, and in that becoming, she begins to see something important. She never needed to be louder to be heard. She only needed to become more silent in her power. Because the right person never needs constant reminders. The right man feels your absence like a cold breeze in a once warm room. He starts to notice the small things. The gap in his day where your message used to be. The empty space in his life where your laughter once lived. And he wonders, did I lose her? Was she more valuable than I realized? Let's pause here for a moment. If you feel tempted to break the silence just to ease your discomfort, ask yourself this. Would the woman who values herself deeply beg for crumbs? Or would she hold her head high, trusting that what is meant for her will never need to be chased? Your silence is not empty. It is full of self-worth. It speaks volumes in a language only the soul can understand. So let him feel it. Let him wonder. Let him reach his own realizations without your help. Because here's what's true. When a man is no longer certain of you, that's when he begins to truly see you. And if he doesn't, then you've just saved yourself from years of being unseen. This is your turning point, not toward him, but toward yourself. You are not silenced to punish. You are silenced to protect your peace. Let that silence work for you. Let it stretch long enough that it becomes a boundary he must honor if he wishes to return. And if he doesn't rise to meet you, then you'll know with grace. He was never meant to walk with the woman you are becoming. Becoming the woman who no longer waits. There comes a moment, soft, subtle, often in the quiet of an ordinary day, when you realize you're not waiting anymore. You're not checking your phone as often. You're not scanning his stories to see what he's doing. You're not holding space in your heart for someone who stepped out without explanation. You've stopped asking, when will he text me? And instead, you've started asking, what makes me feel alive again? This is the quiet shift that changes everything. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or fanfare. It comes in your decision to redirect your energy not toward him, but toward you. Because let's be honest, how many hours have you spent overanalyzing his silence? How much of your light have you dimmed, waiting for his attention to switch back on? There is nothing wrong with wanting love, with hoping someone chooses you. But there is something deeply painful about forgetting to choose yourself in the process. And so, something beautiful begins when you stop chasing closure, answers, or affection, and start chasing you. The you who existed before the confusion. The you who lights up when you dance. The you who glows when she's painting, learning, healing, laughing with friends. The you who remembers. I am not defined by who reaches out. I am defined by what I reach into. You see, real confidence isn't about pretending not to care. It's not about ice-cold detachment or pretending you're unaffected. It's about being so rooted in your worth that someone else's inconsistency doesn't unseat your stability. When you become the woman who no longer waits, something magical happens. You stop looking over your shoulder. You stop wondering where he is or why he left. You start building a life so full, so radiant, that his absence no longer echoes. And the truth is, he might come back. They usually do. But this time, he won't find the same version of you waiting at the door. He'll find a woman who's moved forward not bitterly, not vengefully, but lovingly, toward herself, toward her peace, toward a future that doesn't rely on his return to be beautiful. Because here's what many women forget. You are allowed to outgrow those who couldn't see your value the first time. You're allowed to shift your energy, not to punish, but to protect. You're allowed to say, I no longer wait for someone who doesn't choose me with clarity. And in doing so, you don't become hard. You become whole. Let this be your gentle reminder. You don't have to prove your worth to someone who has forgotten how to hold it. You only have to remember it for yourself and live like you believe it. That is how a woman stops waiting and starts rising. The return doesn't mean you say yes. Sometimes, just when you found your rhythm again, when your world is starting to feel full. Your smile more genuine, your steps lighter, he returns. A message appears, a comment on your photo. A simple, hey, I was just thinking about you. And for a moment, your heart flutters. Because we're human, we remember the good things. We remember the warmth of their voice, the laughter in the late night calls, the softness of connection. But here's the moment that truly defines your growth. It's not when he pulls away. It's when he tries to come back and you get to choose differently. You see, silence has a way of sharpening clarity. In the space he left, you found your strength. In the nights you cried alone, you uncovered your resilience. In the days you felt invisible, you remembered how to be seen by your own reflection. So when he returns, ask yourself gently, does he come back with consistency or just curiosity? Is he drawn by your peace or just unsettled by your absence? Because someone who truly values you doesn't let silence stretch into absence unless they were prepared to lose you. And here's what most forget. Just because someone reaches out doesn't mean you owe them access. Just because they feel your absence doesn't mean they deserve your presence again. Forgiveness and access are two different doors. You can wish him well from a distance. You can send peace without sending yourself back into the same story. You've grown now. You've become the version of you who doesn't shrink for someone's comfort. You no longer confuse being wanted with being chosen fully. You no longer say yes to someone who once showed you what no feels like. And the woman who once checked her phone at midnight. The woman who cried over seen messages and silence. The woman who wondered if she wasn't enough. She's still here, but she's changed. She's softer, wiser, stronger. She's not bitter, just better at boundaries. So if he comes back, don't let the old ache convince you to abandon your new standards. Ask yourself, does he come with presence, patience, purpose? Or is he just circling back because you've become radiant without him? Sometimes, the final test isn't about whether he returns. It's whether you still want him now that you've remembered who you are. And if you don't, that is not loss. That is liberation. You are allowed to grow beyond the version of you that once waited for someone who didn't show up. You are allowed to become someone who no longer entertains half-efforts. You are allowed to choose peace, even when love comes knocking again. Because sometimes healing looks like smiling at the door, and not opening it. You are the prize, not the pursuer. So here you are, after all the silence, the stillness, the self-reflection, you're no longer chasing anyone. You're no longer wondering if he'll come back. Because you've finally come back to yourself. And that, beautiful soul, is everything. The healing wasn't in whether he texted you. It wasn't in whether he realized what he lost. It wasn't even in whether he changed. The healing happened the moment you stopped tying your worth to his presence. The moment you began to see that the version of you who waited, explained, and questioned, she was acting out of longing, not knowing. But now you know. You know your energy is sacred. Your time is valuable. Your love is not a lifeline to be thrown at someone drifting in and out of your life. And if a man wants access to your heart, if he wants to stand beside you not just when it's easy, but when it matters, then he must rise. Rise in consistency. Rise in clarity. Rise in presence, not performance. Because you are no longer available to the ones who breadcrumb you. You are no longer keeping space for the ones who communicate in confusion. You no longer romanticize potential, you honor what is real. And the truth is, a woman who knows she is the prize does not chase. She chooses. She invites. She allows herself to be seen. But never settles for being convenient. She doesn't punish with silence. She simply protects her peace. She doesn't close her heart. She just becomes more discerning about where it opens. Because real love, the kind that stays, the kind that sees, the kind that shows up, it doesn't require you to beg. It doesn't make you feel anxious or unseen. It doesn't go silent when things get real. So when the day comes, and it will, when a man sees the glow of your peace, and he thinks to himself, I should have treated her better. That is not your burden to carry. That is not your cue to go back. It's simply confirmation that your growth was never in vain. That your silence wasn't weakness. It was wisdom. That your absence wasn't punishment, it was protection. Because the right man, he won't need you to disappear to realize your value. He'll recognize it in your presence and protect it before it slips away. And until then, or if he's already beside you, you remain the woman who no longer waits, begs, or proves. You are not a question to be figured out. You are an answer, clear, whole, and already enough. Let your life reflect that truth. Let your peace speak louder than your pleas ever did. Let your joy be your comeback. Let your healing be the love story you were always meant to write. Because when you rise into your wholeness, you stop asking, will he return? And start realizing, you were always the one worth choosing. And now you've finally chosen yourself. If this message found its way into your heart today, I hope you let it sit there for a while. Not to stir regret, but to stir remembrance of your worth, your strength, and your wholeness. You don't have to chase what is meant for you. You don't have to beg to be seen. You don't have to explain yourself to be loved. You are allowed to walk away from anything that dims your light. You are allowed to take up space in your own life fully, gently, unapologetically, And if this episode reminded you of the truth you had forgotten, let that truth live with you. Let it guide your next choice. Let it soften your next silence. Let it become the mirror in which you finally see yourself clearly, lovingly, and without conditions. This is Whisper to Heal. A quiet space where your heart is held, where your growth is honored, and where you are always reminded. Healing doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it simply whispers. I'm okay now. I choose me. If this resonated, take a moment to like this video. It helps more souls find the healing they didn't know they were looking for. Subscribe if you haven't already. And share this with someone who may need this gentle reminder too. Until next time, take care of your heart. It's been through so much. And it still beats bravely, beautifully, quietly. You are the prize. And that will never change. Whisper to Heal.